out here is crazy. There's a lot of people crazy.
Buddy of mine might get killed, man. And Chris retaliated.
Welcome Homeless Life Stories.
In 2025, while politicians in Washington are still debating whether Americans deserve a $2,000 relief check, thousands of people in Ohio are sleeping under supermarket awnings, inside aging cars, or on freezing sidewalks. On television, the noise is all about stimulus bills and economic theories. But on the streets of Columbus, Dayton, and Cleveland, what people hear is not financial arguments. It's the sound of children crying inside parked cars, the weary sigh of a father turned away from a full shelter, the rattling wheels of a shopping cart, carrying everything a family has left. Ohio was once called the heart of it all. But that heart is cracking. The Pitt 2025 report in Franklin County recorded a 7.4% increase in homelessness numbers that are not just bad news, but a warning that every safety net meant to protect people is beginning to fail. Behind those cold statistics are individuals who once had jobs, families, and hopes, people who are now reduced to a single word: homeless. At Homeless Life Stories, we believe that to understand why Ohio has fallen into this crisis, we must dissect the system, not just recount the tragedies. We must trace every fracture: economic, housing, healthcare, to show that today's crisis is not an accident but an inevitable consequence of years spent overlooking real human needs. This investigation begins here. 1. The debate over the $2,000 check. In 2025, the proposal for a $2,000 relief payment, reintroduced by former President Trump and pushed again into public debate in Congress, became a political flashpoint. Supporters called it a short-term lifeline for households drowning in debt, while opponents dismissed it as a temporary patch that does nothing to solve deeper problems. No matter which side of the debate you stand on, the check has grown into a symbol of something larger. America is confronting a truth it no longer wants to admit: that more and more people can no longer afford even the most basic cost of living. This is not just about money. It reflects a nation where millions now rely on emergency aid simply to survive another month. Inside the conference rooms of Washington, lawmakers argue endlessly over numbers, budget caps, and long-term sustainability.
No money, no care, nobody caring about me.
But inside Ohio's crowded shelters, the same debate takes on a completely different shape. A mother waits outside a shelter door because all the beds are taken. A 60-year-old man stands in the cold, choosing between buying his medication and gas to keep warm. A young factory worker recently laid off is told to sign up for the waiting list, as if hope now requires paperwork. These people do not care which politician proposed the check. They care only about one thing: whether they will have a safe place to sleep tonight. And the painful truth is this: relief checks, no matter how generous they appear, are top-down reactions that fail to address the root causes. They are like placing a small bandage on a wound that is already infected. Ohio's crisis did not erupt from one sudden disaster. It is the result of years of patchwork policies, wrapped in grand political speeches but disconnected from real life. To understand why a relief check can't fix this and why Ohio continues to fall deeper into crisis, we have to look down at the streets of Columbus and peel away the political mask hiding the reality beneath.
Nowhere to go, nowhere to sleep, no water, no food, eating on trash cans type stuff.
2. The reality shock. Ohio's 2025 data doesn't lie. While politicians in Washington argue over trillion-dollar budgets, Ohio is dealing with numbers far smaller but far more brutal. The 2025 point-in-time count in Franklin County revealed an undeniable truth. Homelessness rose by 7.4% in just a single year. At first glance, 7.4% may not sound catastrophic, but when you stand outside a shelter at 10 p.m., watching a line stretch all the way to the parking lot, you quickly understand that this is not a modest increase. Every percentage point represents dozens of families losing their homes, hundreds of nights spent on sidewalks, and thousands of hopes crushed beneath the weight of a collapsing system. Shelters across Columbus are witnessing the exact scenario they feared most. Waiting lists longer than an 8-hour work shift, every empty room fought over with desperate eyes, and backup floor mats no longer enough to cover the cold ground. By the first month of 2025, many shelters were forced to say the words they hate the most. "We're full. I'm sorry." And each time that sentence is spoken, a human being, not a statistic, is pushed back into the freezing night with no guarantee they will wake up in the morning. Worse still, outreach teams are reporting a dangerous trend. The number of people sleeping outdoors isn't decreasing, they're just being pushed farther away, sinking deeper into the hidden corners society rarely sees. Under a bridge near West Broad Street, a family of 3 survives inside an old sedan. At a park near Parsons Avenue, several young men pitch makeshift tents between the trees, escaping the damp February cold. Empty lots on the city's outskirts have turned into small tent towns, new cracks in an already failing system. Outside, officials speak optimistically about Ohio's recovery, but the data, cold, unyielding, metallic, tells a very different story. The foundation of the state is rotting from the bottom up. And the most painful truth is this: this crisis is not just an economic reflection. It is the result of years of neglect so severe that now the numbers must scream in place of the people.
Being homeless and not really having a lot of resources, it makes it harder. I got kids and everything, but...
3. The paradox of a cracked heart. Suppose you walk through the streets of Columbus, Dayton, or Cleveland on a cold winter morning. In that case, the contradiction hits you immediately. On one side, billboards promise job opportunities and boast that the American dream is coming back, while on the other side, rows of makeshift tents shelter people struggling to survive a 10-12 night. The American dream and the collapse of that very dream exist on the same street. In downtown Columbus, gleaming glass office buildings host political debates about budgets, just a few blocks away from tent clusters where people burn trash to stay warm. Both worlds exist, yet neither sees the other. The bitter paradox is this: Ohio is the birthplace of steel workers, auto workers, and the very hands that once built America. But here too, the next generation of those same workers now stands in line at shelters, fighting for a folding cot. Ohio is the state that champions family values, yet thousands of children are forced to switch schools repeatedly because they've lost their homes, losing not only stability but also their childhood. Ohio calls itself the heart of it all.
I didn't want my kids to suffer because of what I've had to go through as a child.
But that heart is weakening as once tight communities come undone, leaving people wondering, who are we abandoning in this crisis? The painful truth is that this collapse didn't happen overnight. It is the result of years of accumulating fractures, small cracks in the system that were ignored until they erupted like a social earthquake. And here, in Ohio, the place often held up as the symbol of authentic America, we're witnessing a truth no one wants to face. When the foundation shakes, the most vulnerable are the first to fall. That is why we must continue this dissection of the crisis to understand why bold, confident macro policies sound powerful in speeches but fall apart the moment they hit the ground in the lives of ordinary Ohioans. Four, the economic fracture, the rusted legacy of the Steel Belt. To understand why Ohio has plunged so deeply into today's homelessness crisis, we have to rewind the clock back to the 1970s and 1980s, when this entire region carried a proud name, the Steel Belt of America. Back then, the pounding of metal presses in Youngstown echoed like the heartbeat of the city. The blast furnaces in Akron, Canton, and Cleveland lit up the night sky. Workers walked into their factories with the kind of pride people reserve for a calling, not just a job. But then that heartbeat slowed and eventually stopped, and a completely different Ohio emerged. The collapse didn't happen loudly. It arrived quietly like rust spreading across a forgotten beam. When the Youngstown sheet tube plant closed in 1977, nearly 5,000 workers lost their jobs in a single day. Within a few years, other factories followed, leaving behind hollow steel frames like the skeleton of a giant long dead. Neighborhoods that were once crowded and thriving began sprouting for sale, foreclosure, and abandoned signs. It wasn't just jobs disappearing, it was the disappearance of everything that held a community together. Unions, livable wages, benefits, and the sense of dignity that came from meaningful work. When the factories died, those foundations died with them. When the Steel Belt collapsed, Ohio didn't just lose employment. It lost stability, the lifeline any community needs to survive. And the consequences ripple into 2025. Manufacturing wages have dropped far below what they were during the boom years. Many regions have turned into food deserts, areas without even basic grocery stores because the population has thinned out. People once employed in steady industrial jobs now survive on temporary, low-wage work with no insurance. Families live paycheck to paycheck, unable to save or build a future. The economy didn't just rust, it rotted from the inside out. And when a community falls into the spiral of job loss, poverty, housing insecurity, psychological collapse, homelessness is not a personal failure. It is the predictable outcome of a system that has been bleeding for decades. And that is only the first fracture, the economic one. The two remaining fractures, housing and healthcare, will reveal why, even after pouring billions of dollars into relief programs, Ohio's homelessness numbers continue to rise year after year. Five, the housing fracture, the rent equation no one can solve. If there is one equation that forces thousands of Ohio families to give up before they even pick up a pen, it's the equation of rent. This isn't a story about bad financial decisions, nor is it the result of individual failure. It's an impossible formula that traps anyone who steps into it. In Ohio in 2025, 71% of extremely low-income households spend more than half their income just to pay rent, according to Cohio. What does that mean? It means that even if they never eat out, never shop, never spend a single dollar beyond bare-bones survival, they still cannot afford to live. As rent continues to rise year after year while the minimum wage inches upward by mere cents, the affordability gap becomes a black hole. The harder you try to move forward, the faster it drags you down. Ohio simply does not have enough affordable housing to catch those who fall. The Tacoma Housing Authority's waiting list alone is over 2,500 names long, and that's just one area. Many other cities don't even have a formal waiting list. What they have instead is silence, no responses, no promises, no available units. Behind every eviction is a family stuffing belongings into cardboard boxes, a child asking, "Where are we sleeping tonight?" and an adult pretending to be strong while their heart is breaking. Once someone is pushed out of housing, few ever make it back because by the time they return, rent has risen again. This leads to a painful truth. The poor pay more for the same roof. They rent week to week, day to day, paying motel rates that cost twice as much as a stable apartment. They sleep in cars in tents not because they want to, but because the economic equation has eliminated their right to a home. Ultimately, the housing fracture is not just a shortage of affordable units. It's a structural absurdity that makes homelessness the only option left when every other door closes. And if you believe these stories deserve to be brought into the light so none of them are reduced to cold statistics, hit like, comment, and subscribe to Homeless Life Stories. Every bit of support is a reminder to the world that housing is not a privilege. Housing is a human right. Six, the healthcare fracture, mental health. To understand why Ohio has sunk so deeply into today's homelessness crisis, you have to look directly at the state's mental health care system, a system abandoned over decades. Since the 1990s, public psychiatric hospitals have shut down one after another, without any strong replacement network to catch those who needed help. The people didn't disappear. They were simply pushed onto the streets. In Columbus or Dayton, you can find someone standing in the middle of an intersection talking to voices only they can hear. A woman trembling because she no longer has her maintenance medication, or faces filled with confusion and fear as untreated conditions take hold, all of them byproducts of a healthcare system cut down to the bone. When even the most basic support no longer exists, many fall straight into homelessness because they are not stable enough to hold a job or maintain daily life. This brutal reality is not just a medical failure, it is a humanitarian failure. If untreated mental illness is a slow burning wound, then opioids are the bomb that detonates at the center of the community. Ohio has long been considered the epicenter of America's opioid crisis. Fentanyl is cheaper, stronger, and deadlier than heroin, destroying thousands of families in just a few years. In towns like Portsmouth or Middletown, you find entire blocks where every few houses, one stands abandoned because its occupants either died or became too incapacitated to work due to addiction. Once a life is pulled into fentanyl's spiral, losing housing is just the next inevitable step in a chain of losses. Losing a job, losing family, losing identity, and eventually losing the right to live as a human being. What's even more heartbreaking is that most homeless individuals struggling with opioid addiction did not choose that path. They relapsed because they lacked access to treatment, lacked medication support, lacked someone who believed in them and stayed beside them. And this is where we must ask ourselves, did Ohio fail because it lacked funding, or because we lacked the patience and compassion to stop, listen, and extend a hand? Seven, the ripple effect of community initiatives. When large systems fall asleep, it is often the smallest communities that become the flame keeping Ohio warm. In Toledo, an elderly doctor drives a self-modified van turned into a mobile clinic, offering free medical care to those living on the margins. In Dayton, volunteers are building tiny home villages, small, warm, clean, and dignified, In Cincinnati, churches keep their doors open 24/7 for anyone with nowhere to go. These actions are like little ripples of oil, small, but spreading with the speed of human compassion. And within those ripples, hope begins to take root. Yet just across the wall of these grassroots efforts lies a chilling paralysis. Ohio has the budget for a new stadium, but not enough to keep winter shelters open. The state can pour millions into commercial developments while people experiencing homelessness are left to figure it out themselves. In the halls where power is decided, human beings are reduced to numbers, and numbers are easy to ignore. Housing first models proven to reduce homelessness by up to 80% in Utah and parts of Northern Europe offer a simple truth. If you want someone to rise, give them shoes first. If you want them to overcome addiction, provide them with a home first. Ohio is experimenting with scattered versions of this model, and early outcomes all point to the same conclusion. Once a person has a roof, they finally begin to believe their life is worth fighting for. Eight, voices from the sidewalk. On a cold January afternoon, I asked a man living under a bridge near Parsons Avenue what he wished for most. I expected him to say a stable home, a steady job, or even just a warm meal. Instead, he simply shook his head and whispered a sentence I will never forget. I just want someone to look at me like I'm a human being. That single line cuts to the core of Ohio's homelessness crisis. People aren't just losing housing, they are losing the sense that their existence matters. In Ohio, homelessness is not a symbol of personal failure. It is a fracture in the system, a consequence of stagnant policy, a mirror reflecting a society stretched thin. Yet within those fractures are small glimmers of light, a bag of food handed with care, a tiny home village blooming like a green shoot in dry soil, a volunteer sitting down to listen to the story of someone the world has forgotten. Ohio now stands at a crossroads, and the choice does not belong only to legislators. It belongs to us, the ones who still have a home to return to, the ones whose voices still carry weight. Because sometimes, as one homeless man told me, a single glance can save a life. Carry those words with you after this video. Let them stay with you long enough to become action, long enough to become the change Ohio has been waiting for.